We often hear that Japan is a shame-based culture, but what does that really mean? If you've ever wondered why Japanese people apologize for things that aren't their fault, or why a CEO might bow for 30 seconds on national TV after a scandal, this is the video for you. We're not here to stereotype or oversimplify. Instead, we're unpacking a framework that anthropologists have studied for decades, and we'll ground it in real, modern examples. Let's start with the core distinction. In a guilt-based culture, what keeps people in line is an internal voice. You do something wrong, you feel bad inside, even if no one finds out. That's guilt. It's tied to personal conscience, often shaped by moral codes like religious teachings or individual ethics. Think of it as a private courtroom in your own head. You violated your own standards, and now you're the judge, jury, and defendant. In a shame-based culture, the regulator isn't internal, it's external. It's the eyes of your family, your coworkers, your neighborhood. Wrongdoing doesn't just hurt you, it damages your social standing. It brings dishonor to the group you belong to. That's shame. Setting things right isn't about feeling absolution or feeling better internally. It's about restoring your place in the social fabric. Japan is one of the most cited examples of a shame-based society. This isn't a judgment, it's a structural reality rooted in history, philosophy, and social organization. The idea was first popularized by anthropologist Ruth Benedict in her 1946 book, The Chrysanthemum and the Sword. This book was written during World War II, and its purpose was to help Americans understand Japanese behavior. She contrasted American guilt with Japanese shame. While the binary has been critiqued as too rigid, it remains a powerful lens. So how does this play out in real life? Let's look at three areas: workplace culture, public apologies, and family dynamics. First, the workplace. Imagine you're a mid-level manager in a Japanese manufacturing company. There's a defect in the product line. It's not your fault. The issue originated at the supplier's factory, but your team is part of the whole chain. When the problem is discovered, the pressure isn't just to fix the defect, it's to prevent meiwaku, inconvenience to others. Your boss doesn't yell, he or she doesn't need to. The silence in the meeting room is heavy. Everyone knows the company's reputation is at stake. You feel the weight of how things might appear to the outside world. If you want to hear more about the concept of meiwaku and all the effort put into avoiding meiwaku, check out X-Japter's channel. I put a link in the description. Think back in 2017. Kobe Steel admitted to falsifying data for years. Aluminum and copper products used in airplanes, cars, and trains were compromised. The CEO didn't just issue a press release. He held a press conference, bowed deeply, and resigned. His personal guilt might have been minimal. He wasn't forging the data himself, but the shame fell on the entire company, and as its public face, he had to absorb it. This wasn't about internal remorse. This is about restoring trust with customers, regulators, and the public. Contrast this with the Volkswagen emissions cheating scandal. CEO Martin Winterkorn resigned, but the focus was on legal accountability, shareholder value, and internal ethics reviews. There were apologies, but they were framed around violating laws and consumer trust, not losing face. The language was about personal and corporate responsibility, not collective dishonor. Now let's talk about public apologies. In Japan, they're a ritual. When a politician, celebrity, or executive messes up, the apology isn't just words, it's choreography, deep bows, scripted remorse, sometimes tears. In 2021, the president of the Tokyo Olympics Organizing Committee, Yoshida Mori, made a sexist remark about women talking too much. The backlash was swift. He didn't just say sorry, he held a press conference, bowed multiple times, and eventually resigned. The issue wasn't just the comment, it was that he embarrassed Japan on a global stage, right before the world's eyes were on Tokyo. This isn't performative in a shallow way, it's functional. The bow signals submission to social norms. It's a public act of restoring honor. In a guilt-based culture, an apology might be private, or it might focus on the victim. I hurt you, I did something wrong, I feel terrible. What can I do to make it better? In Japan, the apology often addresses the group. I disrupted harmony. I caused meiwaku, and I take responsibility to fix it. Family dynamics offer another window. Historically, the Ie system, the extended family household, tied individual behavior to collective reputation. A child's failure at school wasn't just the child's problem. It reflected on the parents, sometimes the grandparents, even ancestors. Today, the Ie system is less rigid, but the principle still lingers. I recently spoke with an American friend of mine who's married to a Japanese woman. They're a charming couple. They were going through a crosswalk, the light was turning red, and a taxi was coming toward them, but she reached over to fix his collar in the middle of the street, and he was dumbfounded. Later, she explained that people watching would think she's a bad wife because she let her husband walk around with his collar all messed up. She had to fix the collar before anybody noticed. That was more important than getting across the street before the light turned red. This might seem like an extreme example. Not every Japanese wife is going to fix her husband's collar in the middle of the street with a taxi coming. But it started a conversation over guilt versus shame-based society. She said it was not really shame that she felt, but rather embarrassment. More than shame-based, her behavior was embarrassment avoidance. She also speaks fluent English, but when they're in an international part of town where a lot of people speak English, she starts to whisper. She's afraid that other Japanese might hear her and understand her and judge her for making a mistake in English. This isn't universal. Urbanization and individualism are shifting things. Younger Japanese, especially in cities like Tokyo and Osaka, are exposed to global norms. Social media introduces new forms of scrutiny, but also new forms of anonymity. You can be anyone online, you can say anything you want. Here are some examples.
Without exception, foreigners stink. Please leave Japan promptly.
Being anonymous erodes traditional shame mechanisms, but in rural areas or in tight-knit corporate cultures, the old rules still apply. So you might be a perfect angel back home, but go to college in the big city and you can party all night and make all sorts of bad decisions, if you know what I mean. But it's temporary and you didn't embarrass your family, so it's okay. Once again, an extreme example. But it might explain some of the behavior that tourists can sometimes exhibit while on vacation. The concept is tabi no haji wa kakiste. No shame on vacation. Distance from home equals distance from responsibility. It reflects a cultural mindset where people feel that misbehavior or breaking social norms while traveling, especially abroad, is excusable because it's temporary and far from home. When you're living under a microscope, pressure builds up. Some see travel, especially international travel, as a pressure valve. Misbehaving abroad has no long-term consequences to reputation. Psychological distance lowers inhibitions. Let's zoom back out. Shame-based systems prioritize wa, or harmony. They discourage confrontation. They reward conformity. This has upsides. Japanese trains run on time, public spaces are clean, and crime is low. But there are costs. There's a big stigma on seeking help for mental health issues. Therapy is seen as admitting weakness, which brings shame not just to you, but to your family. Suicide rates have historically been elevated, though they've declined in recent years. The pressure to save face can lead to isolation. Guilt-based systems, by contrast, encourage individual expression. You can challenge authority if your conscience demands it. America was built on challenging authority. Whistleblowers are celebrated, at least in theory, but this can lead to fragmentation. Social cohesion suffers when everyone follows their own moral compass. Japan isn't purely shame-based. There's overlap. Buddhism introduced introspection. Shinto emphasizes purity, which can feel like internal guilt. Post-war education, influenced by the American occupation, promoted individual rights, but the dominant mode is still external. Take the concepts of Giri and Ninjo. Giri is social duty. Ninjo is human emotion. They often conflict. A classic example in literature is the 47 Ronin story. The samurai avenge the lord out of Giri, even though it means defying the shogun and facing death. Their personal feelings, Ninjo, didn't matter as much as their social obligation. I've got a video about the 47 Ronin. There's a link in the description. You can check it out later. In modern times, think of the karoshi phenomenon, death from overwork. A salaryman works an 80-hour week not just for money, but to avoid shaming his team. If he leaves the office at 5 p.m., he's not just slacking. He's burdening colleagues who have to take up the slack for him. The guilt might be there, but the shame is stronger. Let's look at another example. In 2011, the Fukushima disaster. TEPCO, the operator, faced global criticism, but internally, the shame was about failing the nation of Japan. Employees bowed an apology. The focus wasn't just on safety failures, but on letting down communities that depended on the plant. Contrast this with the BP oil spill in 2010. The CEO, Tony Hayward, famously said he just wanted his life back. This made him look like a total clown. The tone was defensive, legalistic. The focus was on liability, not collective dishonor. Sure enough, he was replaced and he got his life back. Education offers more insight. Japanese students clean their own classrooms. It's not just about personal pride in a clean space. It's about shared responsibility. If one kid slacks, the whole class suffers. In a guilt-based system, that student might feel bad for not doing their part because it's wrong. In Japan, they feel bad because they let the group down. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is Japan changing? Yes. The birth rate is plummeting. Young people are delaying marriage, prioritizing personal fulfillment. Social media influencers promote self-care. Therapy is slowly being destigmatized. But the infrastructure of shame, group loyalty, corporate hierarchies remains the same. A 2023 survey by the Japanese government found that 70% of respondents still feel strong pressure to conform to social expectations. That's not exactly nothing. So what does this mean for outsiders? If you're visiting Japan, understand that sorry doesn't always mean guilt. It means acknowledging disruption. If a train is late, the conductor apologizes, even though they didn't cause the delay. It's about shared experience. If you're doing business, know that saving face matters more than being right. Admitting fault publicly, even if it's not yours, can build trust. Guilt and shame aren't necessarily good or bad. They're just tools. Guilt fosters individual accountability. When all individuals behave in ways that don't cause guilt, society flourishes. Shame fosters group cohesion. Japan leans on shame because its history, the small island, high population density, and rice farming collectives, demanded cooperation. The US leans on guilt because the frontier ethos rewarded independence. The Judeo-Christian roots mean that guilt is baked in. Neither is pure. Japanese people feel guilt. Americans feel shame. But the balance shapes everything. How we apologize, how we work, how we raise our families. Next time you see a Japanese CEO bowing on TV, don't just see the ritual. See a system. A system that's held a society together for centuries and is now evolving under global pressure. I read and respond to your comments, so let me know. Have you experienced shame or guilt dynamics in your culture? What surprises you about Japan's approach? Thanks always for watching. I'll see you in the next video.